What is up, guys? This is Jared Spalding here. Today, I'm going to be doing another political video for you guys. I know that, the last one I did wasn't too long ago, and I don't try to do, like, a bunch of political videos. I don't want this channel to be dedicated to that, but every now and again, you do really have to discuss it, because it is very important, to, basically the future of this country, who's going to be president is a very important topic. But today, I guess I have a little bit more, of a more lighthearted video. Of course, it's still going to have some information in it. But, basically, it's probably going to be Hillary and Trump running against each other. Unfortunately, she has Hillary being not Donald Trump, because I know if I say she, you might think I'm talking about Trump. But no, Hillary Clinton has so many superdelegates that she's going to be so far ahead of Sanders because of that basically at this point it's going to be Hillary and Trump. And Trump, basically is guaranteed to be the one who's running for Republican at this point. So I guess basically what I'm trying to say is that out of everyone, it's probably going to be them two running against each other, unfortunately. So, of course, that means that, basically we're going to have to choose here, out of the two, who is the lesser of two evils. And you can't just look at their campaign slogans or anything like that. You have to look at what they've done in the past and just, what they've done just overall, what type of a person they are overall, honestly, because, if you base it on just what they said, then obviously you would say Hillary's better than Trump, but then again, if you base it on all their actions, it becomes a little bit more difficult to choose. So, if you do look, let's just look at, the way that they present themselves. I would definitely say, that Trump basically, it feels like that everything he says is for attention, it really doesn't feel like that he even takes himself seriously sometimes, because it's like some of the things that he says just doesn't make any sense. Like how he said that he didn't know who the KKK were, for example. That just seems like something that it's pretty basic knowledge, especially for someone who, claims to be so intelligent as himself. Or how he kept on, when he was referring to 9/11, he kept on saying 7/11 instead. That's just something that's kind of ridiculous, and it's like, how would you make that mistake, So it seems like sometimes these mistakes are more just like ones that were purposely done just to, get more attention, because more people will be talking about him. And the more people that talk about him, unfortunately, the more people that there are going to be voting for him, because the more people have heard his name. And a lot of stuff he says, too. It's almost like, he's just trying to rally up a crowd, and he could literally just be talking about nothing. He would literally just be talking about, my point being, it really just seems like that he could, like I was saying, talk about nothing. Sorry, I did have to pause the video for a second because of background noise, but it does seem like that he could literally just be talking about nothing. He could be talking about, which type of shampoo he prefers, and basically, start rallying up people about it to the point where, everybody, they don't care what he's talking about anymore. The tactics he uses are very, very clever, honestly, because they work. That's the bottom line, is that he, like I was saying, he can talk about nothing at all, and people still will, get rallied up. He makes people want to fight for something, and that his whole, slogan, "Make America Great Again," that's another thing. It's a rallying point. It's to stir up people to basically, talk about whatever, or agree with him about whatever it is, get people stirred up, get people thinking about stuff. But of course, all they're thinking about is, Donald Trump himself. They're not really thinking about the points there. They're thinking, oh, wow, this guy seems like such a good leader. He seems so powerful, and it doesn't matter what he says. It works. It's like I said, it's very clever. But unfortunately, for him at least, there are people who will see past that, because a lot of times his points really don't make any sense. He doesn't even seem to be, educated enough to be president, which brings me to the next point. One of the big things that people like to say about him being, or one of the big things people like to say is that, he's an outsider, and that's why he's going to be a good president. First of all, no billionaire is an outsider to politics, okay? He has political connections just like anyone else, because, honestly, when you think about it, the people that are that rich and that involved with other rich people, he certainly doesn't isolate himself from the crowd, so, definitely there's some connections that he's going to have, which are probably helping him run for president right now. He's going to have different connections where it's not going to be he's completely isolated from politics, for one. And for two, I never really understood how that's, a point that really is supposed to be, good, because if someone really truly doesn't know anything about politics, then how could they ever be a good president? It was like kind of like how when Sarah Palin was running for vice president, for example, and she was the governor of Alaska. Well, she didn't really know anything about anything, that was going on at the time, because simply because of the fact that she was an uneducated person. She was a governor of Alaska. Just take a second to think about that. It's Alaska, okay? Alaska is not even one of the continental states. It is off the United States, and so its priorities are going to be a little bit different than those of the U.S. And it's also the second least populated state too. So it's not like some bustling, communities are going on or anything like that there. So it's going to be, a little bit less involved in what's going on with the country than any other state, besides Hawaii, of course, which is also not continental, because it's simply, it's not part of the actual mainland, It's off by itself. So, therefore, she really didn't know as much as she should have, and of course, she didn't become vice president to Joe Biden because they lost. That's really simple. But so we never did get to see that. But now, of course, Trump is running for president. So, sorry guys. I don't know why I just said that. I'm really, I guess, too tired to be making a video right now. But what I meant to say was that she was running with McCain because Biden is the vice president right now. So no, it's anyway though. My point is that she was really incompetent. And also who else was very incompetent? Donald Trump. Like I said, he does have political connections, but the other thing is that a lot of the stuff he says seems very random. It doesn't really seem to, make much sense. And like I mentioned before, he just rallies people up anyway. And his plans are all but impossible because, let me explain this. Honestly, to be able to build a wall that's estimated to cost $600 billion, and then he also says he's going to lower taxes. And to top it all off, he says he's going to lower inflation. All of those things at once are, like I said, impossible. Because what's going to happen really is, since he's a Republican, who's going to pay for everything? The middle class. That's who always pays for everything in the end, Everything he wants to do, that's who's going to be paying for it. Because to do all those things at once, he would have to lower inflation, he'd have to take currency out of circulation. There'd have to be less currency being circulated, of course, and taxes would have to, or for tax to be lowered, there would have to be, for some reason, there'd have to be more currency coming into the country because he does want to pay for this gigantic wall. And I know the whole thing was that we're going to make Mexico pay for it, but I still would like to hear a solid argument as to how that's going to happen. I don't believe that's going to be possible because I think that a lot of people try to say that you could cut off healthcare to Mexico, but in order to be considered one of the United Nations, you have to provide help to other countries. That's the way it's going to work. And if other countries were really upset with us for this, or if we try to place troops in Mexico or whatever it was to try to force this upon them, then other countries might place an embargo on our goods until we revoke this. And I know it would hurt them, but if many countries got on this, many of the United Nations got on this at once, it's going to hurt us a lot faster than it's going to hurt them. Because, of course, the United States is very, very, important in the whole trade thing that's going to be happening. But at the same time, all the other countries in the part of the United Nations are going to be a lot more powerful. So anyway, assuming that Mexico is not going to end up paying for this wall, and we are, the taxpayers, how is he going to lower taxes to pay for this gigantic wall? Exactly. And at the same time, how is he also going to lower inflation? Like I said, it seems impossible, all these things. It just seems like he says everything people want to hear, just like any politician would. But it's getting a little too ridiculous because he doesn't even have plans to back this up anymore. He'll just say stuff and then he can't really explain himself, in a reasonable way, something that actually makes sense. Now, Hillary, on the other hand, you don't really see her as much in the media or just getting reported on for being ridiculous because she doesn't present herself in the same way as Trump. She doesn't try to get attention through that. However, at the same time, her policies are, going to be flawed as well because, for one, she seems, for one, she didn't even start out as a Democrat. She started out as conservative. Her and Clinton both. And honestly, she doesn't really seem like the type of person who is willing to stand by their opinion, because it seems like whatever's, she feels like is going to make her have a better chance of being president, that's what she's going to do. Basically, her campaign should be whatever you want. That should be her campaign slogan, because that's what she's going to do. I mean, to be perfectly honest, that's what it seems like, at least. She's saying the things that... I know Trump is saying things that are very popular, and that he can't back up, but it just seems like really Hillary is just pandering to, the common person in a way that, she might be... if people support one thing this day, and then they flip around and support something else the other day, the average person, then all of a sudden she's going to be like, oh yeah, I never supported that other thing anyway, And someone who really can't stand by their own opinions... that's not somebody that I personally would want in office. But other than that, she doesn't really seem like nearly as ridiculous as Donald Trump does to me. So just looking at all of that, it really does seem like that she would be probably the better candidate. But then let's go into their other previous actions. Now Trump, if you go into other stuff he's done, it just gets more and more ridiculous. From being featured on WWE and shaving Vince McMahon's head, to the Celebrity Apprentice show he had. I mean, those things are all ridiculous, but that's what they are. It's ridiculous. That's where it stops. They were light-hearted at best. I mean, they weren't anything malicious or anything where people died, and that's not what can be said for Hillary Clinton, is it now? Instead, what she has done is decided that when she had vital information to save, multiple U.S. soldiers and an ambassador, she decided, I'm not the president, Why should I even worry about this? I mean, that's what it feels like, at least. Maybe obviously those weren't her exact thoughts or anything, but it really doesn't seem like a justified thing to do, to let several people die who were prisoners of war, because... I mean, how can you possibly think that's an okay thing to do? And of course, Obama's going to partner. And that's the thing, is that she's all buddy-buddy with, him, because Bill Clinton was president at one point. She was Secretary of State at one point. So it really seems as though... And I know that I was just saying before how the whole thing about Trump being an outsider doesn't really make sense. But this is like... The problem is that she's all buddy-buddy with them, and he's going to be biased towards helping her, That is really the thing, because she was a Secretary of State under Obama, so, of course, he's going to be pardoning her, and that's something that really bothers me, honestly. Now, in order to actually pardon her, she would actually have to be convicted first. I know that there's probably going to be some charges against her. I don't even think she'll be convicted, though, honestly, because... I feel like that she's going to be able to pull up a defense that people sympathize with, and they think, the jury's going to basically sympathize with her because, she's going to pull up something. I mean, that's what's going to happen. There's going to be this whole sympathy thing, and then she's going to end up probably getting off scot-free, But what I'm hoping, honestly, is that the allegations for the voter fraud come out as being true, because that would be great to see some justice served. For all the people who, tried to switch from independent to Democrat so they could vote, it would be great to see some justice for them, because none of them were able to vote because they were told the wrong deadlines, and it seems to me like it is very possible that some voter fraud was going on. So I would love, like I said, to see justice served for all those people, and honestly, I would love to see Hillary Clinton thrown in jail. That's just my opinion on that, though, but if you look at those, honestly, neither one of them is qualified to be president. But even though Hillary's actions have been, horrible, I mean, honestly, I feel like Trump would be able to not more easily, but his plans would be more destructive to the country. I feel like, he's going to hurt the middle class a lot more. Then again, I don't know, because Hillary's also super rich, so I feel like that either way is going to come down to the middle class to pay for everything, but I feel like Hillary would be, you know, less likely to bring, an economic downfall. But at the same time, I feel like that she's a little too liberal with some of her ideas. Like, there's a very fine line, I think, that has to be walked when it comes to things like, refugees and all that, and everything with foreign relations. There's a very, very fine line. And, like I said, I was saying, she did not show that she's very good at handling that as being Secretary of State. She did not prove that she was very good at handling foreign relations at all, so I don't know. But at the end of the day, like I said, neither one of them should be president, because either way I feel like there's going to be some very, very negative consequences in the long run. But between the two, I'm thinking maybe Hillary Clinton, just because I feel like that Trump, just with everything he says he's going to do, I feel like it is really going to destroy the economy of the country. But, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, this video is probably just going to be a lot more. I mean, there's going to be obviously some fact in there, but a lot of it is opinion. I mean, I know there's going to be probably some Trump supporters and probably even some Hillary supporters watching this video, so I'm not trying to offend anyone with this or anything, but I would love to hear your arguments in the comment sections below, as long as they are logical. And that is it for this video. It's a little bit of a longer one, but peace, love, and much respect.